guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm bringing to you my November wrap-up. November wasn't my best reading month. I only finished about 3 books, but I did travel to Y'allfest, and it was also Thanksgiving, so understandably so. The first book I read in November is easily one of my most favorite books that I've ever read. It was just so beautiful and so amazing, and that was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I loved the book so much that I immediately ordered the UK edition online because this moth on the front is just so beautiful. And then when I was at Y'allfest, I really wanted to get the book signed by Laini Taylor. Unfortunately, this hadn't come yet, so I went ahead and bought the American edition too. Can you tell that I love this book? I actually had never even heard a booktuber give a synopsis of this book. I just knew that a lot of people were looking forward to reading it, but I didn't even know that many people who had read it. I will say knowing nothing about the plot really lended to my enjoyment, so I'm gonna give a very, very brief synopsis without really giving anything away. Basically, the main character is this guy named Laszlo. He is considered to be kind of odd. He's kind of a dreamer. He works as a librarian in this like huge library in the city that he lives in. I don't really know how to describe the world they're in because it is high fantasy, which is kind of hard to get when you first go into the book, especially if you don't know anything. But he's a librarian in this really big library, and he is considered kind of like lower class, and people make fun of him a lot because they call him a dreamer because he's always got his head in the clouds. He's always like imagining other things, and he's super fascinated with this lost world called Weep. I know that sounds confusing, but think of it sort of as like Atlantis. It's this world that a lot of people don't even think exists, but there are very small traces of it in history books, and so he spends his life dedicated to researching it. And basically, this book is about him finding Weep, I guess. I don't know, I just gave a very, very bad synopsis of this, but I just want to say it's really, really, really beautiful. It's so good! The writing style, don't even get me started. I didn't really like Daughter of Smoke and Bone that much when I read it. It was just okay. I think I gave it like 3 stars, but I don't know if Laini Taylor took like some vitamins or something that just made her writing amazing. Yeah, I don't know, I'm rambling, but it's so good and explores so many different morals and stuff like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but like when you meet more characters in the book, there's some like division between certain types of people, and it explores that and explores hate and like what feeds hate and whether it's okay to hold a grudge and like all these different things. And I know I'm rambling and I know nothing I'm saying makes any sense, but if you respect my opinions on books at all, if you've ever read anything that I've recommended and enjoyed it, you will like this. And honestly, this book ruined my life. When I finished it, I was screaming and crying. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I literally screamed when I finished this book because it's just like so frustrating and so heartbreaking, and everyone should just read this book. I don't know how else to describe it. Just please read it. Just go read it, please. So the next book I finished in November was The Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I actually read the first book in this series, I think at this point almost 2 years ago. I read it in January of 2016. And Brandon from Brandon the Book Addict actually recently came to my apartment and went with me to Y'allfest. And he has been like begging me for a really long time to finish this series. And also Michael from Michael Bookline loves this series too. And I just know I would like this series if I kept pushing myself to read it. So I finally got around to reading the second book. So if you for some reason don't know what The Raven Cycle is about, basically it is about this girl named Blue who comes from a long line of psychics. She herself is not psychic, but everyone in her family is, and her whole life everyone has told her that if she were to kiss her true love, then he will die. Early on in the first book, she gets roped into this group of boys who go to a nearby private school, and they are searching for this long dead Welsh king who, according to legend, if you find him, he will grant you a wish. And so one of the boys, the leader of the group, Gansey, is very obsessed with finding him, and so that's what they're all working towards. And through a series of events, Blue ends up being connected to them, and that's sort of what the series is about. I don't want to say too much more because the series is honestly very weird and hard to describe, sort of like Strange the Dreamer, where there's just so much to the plot that I don't really know how else to describe it. It does have elements of fantasy and magic, but I would say that it's just very, very surreal. A lot of the magic is just very faint and kind of like atmospheric. It's not really at the forefront. There's no magic system. It kind of just like seeps into the story, and a lot of weird things happen without a lot of explanation besides just being that there's just magic and energy everywhere. Overall, I have some mixed feelings about this series. On the one hand, I absolutely love the writing. It is so beautiful. It's so atmospheric. It really sucks you in and just makes you feel like you're like reading underwater because it's so magical. But at the same time, like I said, the magic isn't at the forefront, so it's like subtle, but just like really rich, but then on the other hand, there are just a lot of characters in the book that I really don't enjoy. I know Adam and Ronan are both fan favorites, but I really do not enjoy them as characters. I think I like Ronan a little bit more than Adam, but I really just hate Adam. I don't even know how else to describe it. I just find him to be like super annoying and needy, and I sympathize with him for a lot of reasons because he comes from a different background than the other boys and he has to work really hard for his life and stuff, but at the same time I find him to be like really rash and kind of obnoxious. And same goes for Ronan. I understand he has like a dark past, but I just kind of think he's a jerk. And I don't know, there's just a lot there that I don't like. I do like Blue and I do like Gansey and I like Blue's family as well. I would honestly say I like Ronan's pet Raven more than I like him. But yeah, I don't really know how else to describe this book series. I really enjoyed the second installment. I will definitely keep going in the series, but I do have mixed feelings because there's just something about this series that doesn't sit well with me, and sometimes I'm confused when I'm reading the writing because it's just so beautiful and like poetic, but at times I can just kind of be like, I don't really know what's going on, and the magic, like I said, doesn't really have an explanation, so that can be a little bit confusing. But like I said, it's super beautiful. I do like the storytelling overall. I think it's very different than most YA series. I think Maggie Stiefvater is doing something really unique with these books, and I really respect that because I feel like a lot of fantasy can be pretty repetitive, especially in YA. So I don't know, like I said, mixed feelings. I really like it, but at the same time it's not my favorite. So the final book I read in November was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I kind of have a weird relationship with John Green where I don't actually enjoy his books very much, but I feel the obligation to read them every time they come out. And I have to say Turtles All the Way Down was definitely the John Green book that I enjoyed the least, which is kind of saying a lot because I really didn't like Looking for Alaska. Although, I don't know, it's kind of hard. Now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, maybe I still like Looking for Alaska less. I don't know. The only thing I really liked about this John Green book was the mental health representation. Our main character is a girl named Asa who struggles with obsessive compulsive disorder, and in the beginning of the book, one of her old childhood friends named Davis, his dad goes missing because he's been accused of like tax evasion or something, whatever rich people do when they get in trouble with like their money or whatever. So Davis is super wealthy and Asa used to be friends with him when she was younger, and so her best friend Daisy really wants to get to the bottom of where Davis's dad went because no one can find him, and there's a $100,000 reward for whoever finds him. So with all that being said, the book kind of like sets itself up to be about finding Davis's dad and a mystery and like winning money and stuff, but really it's just about Asa dealing with her OCD and a little bit of a romance with Davis, and then her best friend Daisy being fucking annoying. So like I said, the mental health rep is pretty much the only thing that I like in this whole book. And from what I hear from Own Voices reviewers, the depiction of intrusive thoughts and anxiety is done very well and very accurately, which is really great. And also it's an Own Voices story because John Green actually has OCD, so yay for Own Voices. Overall, as far as John Green main characters go, I really liked Asa. She didn't annoy me and I really felt a lot for her as she dealt with her mental health. Also, for the most part, I didn't really mind Davis. He was a pretty respectful love interest and kind of understood that Asa was very different from everyone else and kind of processed things different, so that was cool. I don't really like where their relationship went in the end, but it was fine. So as far as things I didn't like, I absolutely fucking hated Daisy. If there was an award for the worst best friend in a YA contemporary, Daisy would win that award. She was constantly complaining to Asa, saying that Asa was self-centered and she didn't pay attention, but literally all Daisy fucking does is talk about herself, like non-stop talking about herself. There's even a line in the book where she says, "I love the sound of my own voice." She also says some really fucked up shit to Asa about her mental illness, and I just felt like everybody was saying the wrong things to Asa regarding her OCD. I also didn't particularly like Asa's mom. I know she was trying her best, but she also kept saying things to Asa that aggravated her OCD or made her feel bad about her anxiety. I know parents aren't perfect, but I feel like there comes a point in your life where you can see your child is really struggling, and maybe you want to sit down with their therapist and say, what are things I can do and say and things that I shouldn't say, and I feel like her mom just never did that and just kept wanting to be really annoying. Also, on the topic of parents, there were way too many absent parents in this book. Asa's dad died suddenly when she was younger. Daisy's parents are only ever mentioned. Davis's dad is missing, and then his mom also died unexpectedly when he was younger, and then beyond that there are no other adults in this book at all, which is just really weird. And that might even be why I found Asa's mom so annoying, because there was no other adults to compare her to, and so she was just really fucking annoying. I don't know. I didn't like that about the book. Also, as I said earlier, there's really not that much plot to this book. It really sets it up to almost be like an adventure, and then literally nothing happens with that, and then the book mostly just ends ends up being about Asa dealing with her OCD, which is really great. Like, I enjoy mental health books, so that's really cool that that's what it was about, but I just feel like John Green like made a rough outline of the book and then like never filled it in and then just like published it. And then the last thing that annoyed me was that I felt that medication in this book was very unfairly demonized. I think that's a common thing that happens in YA. Asa was very afraid of taking her OCD medication because she feared that it would change her as a person, and she didn't like the idea of having to take medication to be quote-unquote normal. While I think that's a very valid experience and a lot of teenagers and other people could probably relate to having this fear of taking medication, the reason I have a problem with it is that nobody really challenges it throughout the book, not even really Asa's mom or anyone. Like, literally her therapist was the only person throughout the book who kept asking her if she was taking her medication and like how it was going. And so I just feel like YA books should probably, like, I don't know, change their view on medication, because it could really affect people who are reading it and, I don't know, like reinforce their fear of it. Also, I think it's very clear after talking about this book that I don't think I really liked Turtles All the Way Down. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads only because of the mental health rep, but I think if it didn't have that, it would definitely be like a 2-star book for me, because there were definitely way more things that I didn't like than things I liked. So yeah. But that's pretty much it for my November wrap up. Let me know down below what your favorite books were in November. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.